We were laughing and joking and everything seemed funny until they put on the handcuffs. Raise your hands if you've ever gotten into trouble because you weren't paying attention. Yes? Thank you. Raise your hands if you've ever gotten into trouble. It didn't matter if you were paying attention. Yes? Thank you. Well, the place I typically don't pay attention is on airplanes. You see, I recently hit the million-mile mark with United Airlines. And there are two areas in particular I don't pay attention. Number one are the captain's announcements, and the other are the flight attendant's announcements. Now let's just talk about the captain's announcements, not the flight attendant's announcements, but what are some examples of captain's announcements? Anyone? The weather, altitude, okay, etc. Okay? What are some examples of the flight attendant's announcements? Okay? Seatbelts. Let's talk about seatbelts for a moment, folks. It is a car seatbelt. If you can't figure out how to use a car seatbelt, good luck with that oxygen mask. Well, one day we're flying from Denver to the East Coast. There's a murder mystery, whodunit. And just at that critical time, when we're about to figure out who done it, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I'm going, no! Is she not watching the movie? I'm so upset. I rip off my headphones and I attempt to lip read to see who did it. And with the help of my other passengers, we figured out who done it. The movie's over. I decided to go to the restroom. I'm washing my hands. There is a loud noise at the door. I open up the door. It is the first-class flight attendant, and she says to me, and I quote, "What are you doing in here?" I thought it was a trick question. I decided to have some fun with her. So I held up my finger like this. I said, number one, I had to go potty. Folks, whatever you do, here's a travel tip for you. Never make fun of a flight attendant who has no sense of humor. She immediately got revenge. She hopped on the intercom and she says, ladies and gentlemen, as the captain has just announced, for security purposes, 30 minutes before we take off and 30 minutes before we land into our nation's capital at Reagan International Airport, you're not allowed to get out of your seat. But since one passenger has, we're now forced to land at a different airport. Have you ever gotten in trouble because you weren't paying attention? It was a good thing that the other passengers had been buckled up. I'm telling you, I would have been beaten up. And as I'm walking back to my seat, everyone's telling me about the 30-minute rule. And I'm saying to myself, that would have been useful information 5 minutes ago. Thanks a lot, Sparky. And have you ever messed up so bad that you didn't want to make eye contact with other people? And have you ever seen this thing? It's called the Sky Mall magazine. I am studying this thing like it's the Bible. I mean, like it's a final exam or something. Anyway, we land. We land at the right airport. We land at Reagan. And everyone is cheering, and all of a sudden the other passengers are starting to talk to me again. And we're laughing and joking, and everything seemed funny until I received a tap on the shoulder and the flash of a badge. It was the United States Air Marshal. He said, sir, grab a seat. You and I need to talk. Have you ever gotten in trouble because you weren't paying attention? The first class cabin empties out, and there are 3 men who are standing next to me. And there's a part of me that felt comforted by the fact that our government is taking this security issue seriously. But here's another travel tip. Potty first. Well, as it turns out, there weren't 3 air marshals, there were only 2. The first air marshal, let's call him Officer Friendly. He was 6'5", and he was friendly. The second air marshal, he was about 6 foot tall. He had on black pants, black leather jacket. He had a cell phone permanently attached to his ear, and he was strictly business. The third man turned out to be another passenger just like myself. Let's call him Ordinary Joe. He was about my height, weighed 175 pounds, and he too had gotten out of his seat. I wasn't the only idiot who did this. It's true what they say, misery does love company. Anyway, they start to question us, and we move from the airplane to the jet bridge. You know, the area between the airport and the airplane. And they start to question us. And the first question that Officer Friendly asked us, do we have any outstanding warrants? And if we have outstanding warrants, we'll be arrested. And I'm praying to God that there's no such thing as a warrant for outstanding parking tickets. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, they ask us our names, our social security name, a number, our purposes in being in the nation's capital, how long we plan to be here, and on and on. This information is being relayed to Strictly Business, who's repeating it into the cell phone. I asked him, where is this information going to? He said, the CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, and the Internal Revenue Service. Have you ever gotten in trouble because you weren't paying attention? Anyway, things kind of settled down. And we're laughing and joking and everything seemed funny until they put on the handcuffs on Ordinary Joe. All of a sudden, Strictly Business says code red. He makes eye contact with Officer Friendly, who turned out not to be so friendly. He slams Ordinary Joe up against the wall. He says, you up against the wall, you're under arrest, and they take him away. And I said to myself, oh my gosh. If they're arresting Ordinary Joes, then the black man doesn't have a chance. All of a sudden, I'm making eye contact with Strictly Business. I can see his gun. I'm saying to myself, oh my gosh. I only wanted to potty. And I've got to go again now. Tate, Edward L., 5'11", 195 pounds. I wanted to tell him I had lost some weight since that picture had been taken. PX90, what do you think? But I didn't think it would be a good idea. Okay. Mr. Tate, you can go. It was 2 hours between the first tap on the shoulder and between the time I was allowed to leave. I tracked down my luggage. And who was standing next to me? Ordinary Joe. And I'm thinking to myself, he's not so ordinary. And I'm wondering, did he escape? Is there a manhunt? But the point I want to make is this. My message is very, very simple. We need to pay attention. You see, me not paying attention, I almost lost my freedom. But Adele, the famous artist who just recently won 5 Grammy Awards, said the album was about a rubbish relationship. And I submit to you the following, that if you have a rubbish relationship, it's because either one person or the other person did not pay attention. And I'm going to invite you to pay attention.